Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. Hello everybody, Tobias here, and I have one of the knives that I carry every day with me. This is the number 12 toothpick by Great Eastern Cutlery. As you can tell, it is a pocket carry knife, something I carry all the time, and I'm really not going to be talking much about the knife. I got a phone call from a fellow YouTuber about doing videos, basically, and he asked if I ever had like writer's block, basically, you know, where you just can't come up with something to talk about. And the answer was absolutely, happens all the time. And I think it happens to everybody, rather it's doing a YouTube or writing something or just working on anything, where it's like, sometimes it's even like if you're doing work on a car or something and you're trying to figure out how this part goes on or something, and it's like, I've done this 1,000 times, why isn't it working? And you have to sit back and try and figure out what you're going to be doing or how you're going to fix it, what went wrong this time, you know what I mean? And sometimes it just becomes a little more difficult than it's worth. Right now what I'm doing is I'm using this very small Allen wrench to scrape all the little rust out of the bottom of this knife because, well, I haven't done it in a while, and I realized when I did that video on the Great Eastern knives that this thing was really gunked up. And I noticed it first because there were some rust spots up here, which I also have to try and get off. And that happened because, well, I wasn't taking as good a care of my knife as I should have been. In any case, back to what I was talking about before. Writer's block, yeah, it does happen. It happens to everybody. And there's a lot of reasons for it. And one of the things I mentioned in that when I was talking to him is like, have you ever noticed that I got a whole lot of Swiss Army knives, but I don't do a lot of videos on Swiss Army knives? And it isn't that I don't like Swiss Army knives. If I didn't like them, I wouldn't have so many of them. The reason I don't review so many Swiss Army knives is, how many times can you say this knife is almost perfect in the way it is built? You know, how many times can you talk about the red Celador handles and how well they're put on there, and so on and so forth? Or even with the classic SDs that I have, I mean, it's the same classic SD. The only difference is it's got a different handle on it, you know, a different cover. This one has a kitty on it. This one has a dog on it. This one has a palm tree on it. You know what I mean? Doesn't make the most exciting YouTube content. And the same thing goes with, like, when I'm talking about Rough Rider knives. I mean, the build quality is so consistent that you start losing adjectives on how to describe the knife. You can only say it so many times, you know what I mean? And before you sound like a fanboy of the company. And I think that's also why some people concentrate on the negative on a knife sometimes. It's not that the knife is bad, it's like, what can you do? It's like, I've already said everything I can about the good stuff on the knife. There's got to be some kind of flaw on this knife. Like I mentioned with this knife, the fact that the blade tip is proud. Someone else said that's very common on these. So really all you can do is knock down that kick a little bit so that the blade drops down there a little more. And then as you use the blade, it might get proud again. So that's the other thing that's going on, you know. So what do you do? I mean, how do you get over the the mental block that is preventing you from doing another video. Man, this worked out really well. Look at the backside now. I wish I had a before and after picture. I soaked this in mineral oil overnight to try and loosen up all the rust, and that really darkened this stag on the backside. Looks a whole lot better than it did before I did the soaking. Man, a whole lot better. Kind of like it a lot more too now. Anyway, but it's still got the big dent there, which is something you see, there I am complaining about a knife that I really like. And I think a lot of people do that too. But anyway, as a content creator or as anything that you're doing, how do you get over that mental block that is preventing you from doing what you want to do? Well, my first piece of advice is to step back from what you're doing, and don't keep struggling with it, because that's not going to help. That's going to make it worse. And think of something else. If you're working on, maybe you're working on a specific knife or something, and this is what you've been working on, and it just doesn't feel like it's going right. Well, there's no reason to continue to struggle, because it's when you're finished with it, you're probably not going to be happy with it either. So just take a step back and go, all right, I'm going to put this on pause. I'm going to set it to the side and wait wait until I feel more like working on that. Now, obviously that means you have to move on to something else, and you might not be prepared to move on to something else. And we as YouTubers love to create artificial deadlines that we want to meet. It's like, I got to get something up this weekend, so I got to work on something. I got to get something up. This is what I've been working on. I've invested so many hours in it, and it's going nowhere. How am I going to get something up? See, you're stressing over something that is artificial. You don't have to worry that much about getting something up. What you want to do at that point is sit back and think, what can I do instead of this? And you might have a hard time coming up with something to do instead of that. Sorry if the camera's shaking. I'm trying to do this without having my elbow on the table. I want to try and shine up the brass on the inside too. And get this and get it down in there. Anyway, what you want to do is try and come up with something else. Now, usually you think, well, I'll find something else in my collection that I can talk about. And I do that all the time too. It's like, well, and I've got quite a bit in my collection. You think it'd be easy to come up with something to talk about other than what I'm talking about. But that is not always the case. Because you need that inspiration, and sometimes that inspiration is not going to come from your collection. It's not going to come from something else that it isn't going to be coming from you. It's going to be coming from somewhere else, and that's where I usually turn to when I end up with that block where I don't know what I'm doing. I'm stuck. I want to get something done, but I don't have a clue what I want to talk about. Go out there, step away from your channel, and go check other knife channels out. And sometimes check channels that aren't even knife channels, just to get your mind off of knives for a little bit. And then go and look at a couple other knife channels. Go back and think about all of the open tags that are floating around. I know a lot of people can't stand open tags, but what I see with the open tags is they are a great source of not only entertainment, but also ideas. And you don't have to, and quite often I will look at an open tag and like there's one now that's going around like carry a buck knife with another knife for 5 days, and see what happens. Well, to me, that's not going to do a bit of good for me, mainly because if I were to carry a buck knife along with this knife, guess what knife I'm most likely going to use all the time? This knife anyway, or my Swiss Army knife that I have with me. But maybe what I could do is, if I had one, I could say, well, I'm going to swap out my toothpick that I usually carry that is made by Great Eastern by a similar toothpick or a similar size knife from Buck, and I'm going to carry that for a week, and I'm going to swap out my Swiss Army knife with my Swiss Buck knife instead, something like that. And then I'm going to do a video on that, something like that. So look at other open tags that are floating around, or something else that some other channel did, and quite frankly, steal from them. Don't think that you have to come up with all the ideas yourself, because you don't. And there isn't a single idea out there that is truly new. In the world of writing, of great literature and all this other stuff, I think they summed it down to every great novel that was ever written is based off of 7 different books from the past. So there's 7 basic storylines, and those 7 basic storylines are used to create all the books that are out there in the world. So in a similar way, you could think the same thing of YouTube videos. We have pretty much the same story going on over and over and over. And that's okay. Everyone wants to hear, if you're a big fan of Great Eastern knives, for instance, then you're going to want to read or hear about Great Eastern knives, and you're going to like to hear other people's opinions of them, and so on and so forth. If you're a big fan of Rough Rider, same thing. You're going to want to hear other people's opinions on Rough Riders. You've got the case knives out there. You have the people who love case knives, and you got the people who hate case knives. And it's kind of fun going back and forth, watching the arguments pro and con for the knives. And many people, like I have a love-hate relationship with Great Eastern cutlery. I don't think the knives are worth the price that people pay for them. I find them very difficult to find and purchase. But at the end of the day, when it comes to traditional pattern knives, they turn out a pretty decent traditional pattern knife. And they are in small batches, which is the annoying part of it. But this number 12 toothpick is unlike any of the other toothpicks out there for a medium toothpick, a 4-inch toothpick. I don't have a single other toothpick like this one. The case ones are not the same, so on and so forth. And the cool thing about that is that's the way it is. Any case, really wasn't here to talk about the knife as much as I was about, this is odd. I had this thing soaking in mineral oil, and I'm going to have to oil the pivot, and it just isn't as smooth as it used to be. Oh well, any case, that's, like I said, I wasn't really going to be talking about this. I'm a little bit all over the place. But anyway, what I was getting at is, we all get that brain freeze where we just can't think of what we want to say, what we want to do. It becomes a struggle. My advice is sit it down, take a step back, take a good breath. Come back at it a couple hours later. If you are still in that same shape, set it aside and just realize this idea has not come to fruition yet. It is not a mature idea yet. And it's going to have to wait. and then go look for something else to do, something else to talk about. And if you cannot think of something yourself, that's what YouTube is for. Get out there, look at all those other videos out there, revisit some of your old videos, revisit other videos that you really liked in the past, and you'll find inspiration there. And then from there, just turn out something quick and dirty and throw it up, because that's the other thing you got to do. Get something up as quickly as possible so that you can get past that brain block that you have. It's like, all right, this is not going to be the greatest video in the world. I'm going to put it out anyway, because you know what? By gosh, I got to get something up, and I'm going to do it. And if no one watches it, it doesn't matter. I got it up. If it's the best-selling video that I've ever put up, I'm just going to have to live with the fact that I will never be able to repeat that video again, even though YouTube says I need to turn out more videos like that. You know what I mean? That's really the bottom line. You just got to get something out. And it doesn't have to be long, doesn't have to be great. Just put something out. Yeah, I guess that's the bottom line. That's how you get over that brain freeze. In any case, with that said, I will let you go. And I'm happy with this. Now to get it oiled so it pivots better. Anyway, talk to you again soon. Let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with Tobias. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.